What's up, y'all? It's your girl Shay Renee, and yes, I have been MIA because your girl been a little under the weather, and I couldn't do no videos because I'd have been coughing through the whole daggone time. But I am back, and today we're going to talk about Kandi and her gang, y'all. So we're gonna catch up on episode 2 real quick and go into episode 3. Shall we? Let's get started. All right, y'all. So we're not going to stay too long on episode 2 because we just looked at episode 3. So I just want to highlight a couple of things that I saw. So on episode 2, I noticed we got to know Patrick and Melvin a little bit more. Patrick and Melvin are actually Candy's cousins, but she really is very close to them. And Melvin was like her godson. She even paid for him to go to culinary school and everything so that he can better his life. I remember seeing him on an episode of The Real Housewives where he had gotten into some trouble, I guess, or he was in jail. And, Candy had really done her best to like get him reformed and like give him the best opportunities once he started to better himself or whatever the case may be. So they are introduced living together. Patrick runs the parking lot. And Patrick and Melvin are super close. They talk about Patrick's girlfriend and all this, that, and the third, how Patrick don't cook, Melvin cook all the time, this and all that good jazz. Dominique and Brandon go on a date. Now, I thought this was hella funny. Okay, so they go on a date. They talk about the whole zodiac sign thing where she don't date Virgos. She really wants to dance. OLG is kind of like an obstacle in the way right now. But once she finds her way with dancing, she really would rather be on tour all the time. So date goes well. They talk about it really not being a good thing that they're trying to date each other because they work together in Dominique's eyes. But Brandon is like, whatever, I don't care about working at OLG and being a damn manager. I want to be with you, so I want to date you, and that's that on that. So they end the date. Child, Brandon go to steal a kiss, and Dominique gives him the smoosh face. I was like, wait a minute, ma'am. That was hella funny and hella disrespectful, by the way. But all in all, they still, you couldn't pay me to say that they haven't effed already. Okay, I'm sure they done probably did something. Okay, so then Torrin, Dominique, and Chandrika, they all meet up at Torrin's house. They're all chatting and talking and whatnot. And then Dominique and Chandrika look at Torrin like, where's the food at? Because he got something that looked like a Lunchable on a wooden platter. I don't know what the hell, what Lunchable he bought and spread it out on this little piece of wood. But that right there, if you invite me over your house and that's all you got to eat and it look like that, no ma'am. No man paying. Where's DoorDash and Uber Eats? Get them over here, stat. So they all sit down and they talk about him going back to OLG. Chandrika's kind of giving him the lowdown on Philip or whatever because she don't like him. So she trying to make sure everybody else don't like his ass too. So then they ask Dominique about Brandon, and Dominique is like, mum's the word, mind your business. That's all. Just mind your business. Because I don't need to tell you. I don't need you to know nothing about what's going on with me. Okay? We don't need to talk about me and Brandon. We are just friends. And that's that on that. And she's trying to giving Chandrika the cue, like, girl, don't tell nobody my business. I'm not here for it. Okay. So the next scene, Melvin goes to his grandmother's house. He's helping her finish cook up this big old meal that she done made. And the moral of it all is Kandi calls Melvin and they talk about getting the family together because apparently Kim, one of their cousins, which is Aunt Bertha's daughter, has an issue with Aunt Nora and Mama Joyce. So she's calling because she knows he's at Aunt Bertha's house. And she just want to kind of orchestrate getting them all together. So the next scene, Brian comes in to start working at the restaurant again. And he talks with Philip and he seems to be very, Philip is like real extra with Brian. Because I feel like Philip is on 10. Like he's on edge because he feels like nobody likes him. Like everybody is talking about how much they don't like him. And I think that he's like, feeling some type of way about it. And, he has preconceived notions about everybody else. So he is mad because he feels like everybody else already has this preconceived mindset about how he really is. And he's doing the same thing to them, whether he knows it or not. So he's like being nasty and negative, like extra with people. Now I get it. You got to be stern in any management level position. But I feel like he just putting it on extra thick. Like Brian came in very jovial, very ready to work. And he's like, I'll tell you where your section is, and I'll tell you this, and I know, is that how you used to do, and all this. And I was like, wow, Philip, you giving him the serious people's eyebrow, and he just coming in here trying to do his job. So Brian kind of shrugs off all the stuff that Philip is saying, which I'm so glad he did. Because he actually came in like being real funny, like, oh, when is the funeral home arriving or whatever, because he was talking about the decorations in the restaurant. And so he was playing with the guests. He started serving them, and he was like, okay, write your order down, I'll come back. And then he talked about working at Magic City. It was funny. Like, and the guests enjoyed it. So anyway, they talk about then in the next scene, Chandrika. No. Oh, I also want to highlight this. During this whole segment, Brian kind of talks about in his confessional his alcohol addiction that he had during COVID, which I think it was very brave of him to talk about that on camera. And I just love how it seems that he has come out of that. And this is presenting itself to be a huge opportunity for him being on the show. So, I'm thankful that Kandi and Todd are giving him a new opportunity, because he has a very great personality. And I think he has a really bright future. So I think that, this is a great time for him to come out of his depression of what he was going through, because apparently during COVID, he already had a previous drug problem, I guess. But during COVID, it like made it worse because he's now isolated. He doesn't have anywhere to go. And then it just made the addiction worse. But he eventually got some help, and now he's clean and doing much better. So he was a former bartender at the restaurant. Now he's going to be waiting tables. So I can imagine being behind a bar probably is not the best place for him to be. So in the next scene, Chandrika invites everyone out for drinks after work. And Philip was standing there when she was inviting people. And he was basically like, so Brian was like, Philip, do you go out? You coming? And he's like, no, I'm not going anywhere, especially if you're going to be there. Basically talking about he's not about to be hanging out with his employees. So then Philip is shown with his partner, Felipe, and they're talking and having a discussion about how he wants to open his own restaurant, how it's really lonely with him being in Atlanta. They talk about how him and Felipe met, and, just how he just really wants to get his own restaurant one day and really wants to just like find his own way to do his own thing with all of his experience. And then they basically talk about the staff and how he's just not really having a good go with them. Like, he's basically like, all of them are just really terrible, and he just doesn't know how to move forward with them and positivity. And he's like, do you think I'm mean? They think I'm mean. And Felipe jokes and says, yeah, and then he says, no, you're not mean. I'm like, yeah, right. You know, you fucking lying. He is definitely a jackass. But anyway, move right along. The staff sit down for drinks. They discuss OLG. Brian, and so I thought it was interesting that Brian talks about him and Torrin having a little F session, and how Torrin's Peter Weeder is like super duper long, big. And I was like, oh, child. All that D going in the booty hole. Sad. It just breaks my heart every time. It's just like, woo. Could you just, put it where it was probably made to go? That person would probably have enjoyed that moment, But you got to do what you got to do. You got to do you got to do what you love to do, and do it with who you love to do it with, and that's okay. But man, that's a whole, a lot of the ladies like me, they probably feeling like, damn, what a waste. But anyway, so they all sit down and they're talking. Chandrika goes into talking about salaries and how she only gets paid $12 an hour, and how people at Family Dollar are getting paid more than her. And she's like, just complaining about everything going on and how the food tastes one way Monday and then a different way on Saturday. And Patrick is kind of taking this all in, like, you're really talking trash about my cousin, and she's like giving you a huge opportunity to work here. If you don't want to work here, don't work here. So he gonna basically have a conversation with Kandi about the stuff that was discussed. And then it was also briefly discussed how him and Chandrika actually used to talk. And, well, they were just screwing. And then they showed this little picture of them coming out the damn freezer. I guess they was having sex in the daggone freezer, in the closet or something. I don't know. I was like, Lord have mercy. This is a little tacky. But anyway, moving right along, in the next scene, Kandi is seen sitting down with her aunts, her mom, and her cousin Kim and Weenie. Okay. So basically, this whole situation is because Kim apparently was unhappy at OLG. So she was trying to stage this whole walkout of the restaurant. And Mama Joyce caught wind of it. And she was like, that's really messed up, because Kandi has created a whole lot of opportunities and giving y'all like these jobs and stuff. And you over here stabbing her in the back. And so she was just like pissed. And so Kim brings up, she's like, yeah, I got it in my notes right here. What you said on Facebook. Yeah, it's right here. She ain't never find those notes. I don't know where they went, but they must have been in the cloud, because her ass ain't find them. But I feel like I think she did it. I think Kim definitely staged a walkout. Definitely nobody was following her. And it definitely backfired. And I think that she's just upset that she got caught. And it's really messed up. When your family creates opportunities for you like that, and then you shitting on Kandi behind her back, that's really messed up. And if I was Mama Joyce, I'd be cussing your ass out too. Like, that's fucked up. Okay. And even Kandi, she was like fighting back tears, I could tell, because she's like, this is my own cousin, and you out here dragging my name in the streets, like, it's messed up. So all in all, then Kim decides to drag Aunt Nora in it too. She was like, yeah, Aunt Nora, you over there shaking your head. And Aunt Nora was like, I'll throw your butt across this fence. I'm like, Aunt Nora, you about 105 years old. You're not about to throw nobody nowhere. Okay. So you need to stop saying what you're going to do to people, because, lady, you are old as sin. You need to knock it the hell off. That's what you need to do. And that's that on that. So they ended up agreeing to move forward and find a way to get over it. Aunt Bertha was asking for them to hug, but they were like, no, that's a little bit too much now. We're going to be cordial. And then Kandi and Weenie had a nice little laugh, because they were like, now they done did all this rah-rah and talking trash, and now they friends over chicken. So I'm like, food changes a lot of things for people in an argument now. So then in the next scene, Kandi arrives at OLG and she sees Patrick sitting at the bar. So Patrick pretty much gives her the lowdown of what happened at the meetup with the employees or whatever. And telling her basically how Chandrika was talking about they not getting paid enough and all this, that, and the third. And Kandi like, what the hell? So she's like, yeah, we're going to have to have a conversation about that, because what we not going to do is be walking around acting like I'm not paying y'all. And so I think, and Kandi even said that $12 is not is above minimum wage. Minimum wage is like $7 and something in Atlanta, but whatever the case may be, she was getting paid. She's getting paid way more than minimum wage. And she said the restaurant has a budget, like, and nobody gets paid no shit ton of money at a restaurant. Let's be very clear, because y'all are getting tips too. So stop it, Chandrika. And do you know the cameras are on? They recording all this shit that you saying, girl? I don't understand. So in the next scene, Torrin arrives at the restaurant. He got on his Zara's best child with this daggone yellow sweater. He must have auditioned for Big Bird on damn Sesame Street. But anyway, he comes up in here with this bright ass yellow sweater on, and he's talking to Don Juan. Don Juan tells him to go back there and measure the event space, get familiar with it. So as he walks in there, of course, Philip is back there with a dark cloud over his goddamn head. And, Torrin, goes over and introduces himself. He wasn't expecting for Philip to be in there, but Philip is expecting for him to, like, be bowing down to the bitches, okay, which is him, and say, oh, Philip, oh my gosh, it's you. How are you? Okay, What am I here to do, master? I'm like, Philip, get the huge chip off your damn shoulder, because it's giving a lot. Like, all he did was come in there to do what Don Juan asked him to do. He wasn't expecting you to be in there. You call him over and sit him down like you interviewing him. He's like, I'm not getting interviewed here. I'm already hired. Okay. So I don't know what the fuck you talking about, sir. But he was like, well, okay, I'll tell you about myself. So Torrin, because Philip is like, tell me about yourself. So Torrin tells him about how he's been there since the beginning, how he's been doing events for 12 years, all these different things. And then Torrin says, well, tell me about yourself. And Philip says, well, I'm not the one being interviewed here. And he's like, well, I'm not being interviewed either. He said, but you haven't told me anything about you. He's like, Philip is like, well, you're just an event special planner. That's what you do. Events. Do that. And I'm like, okay, now you being condescending, Philip. Like, I don't know how he think he about to own a restaurant and you can't even talk to people. Like, that's crazy. So moving on to episode 3, y'all. The conversation continues with Torrin and Philip going back and forth. And Torrin is basically like, listen, I don't know what the fuck you talking about right now, but I'm here to do what Don Juan asked me to do, and I'm gonna go ahead and head out, because this little petty little bullshit that you doing right here, I ain't got time for it. I ain't gonna make none. Okay. So then Kandi comes in and they discuss, Torrin discusses Philip with her. Give me a second, y'all. See, that's why I couldn't do the videos before, because my little throat getting dry. Then I'd be sitting up here coughing. Okay. It's still a little nasally, but I'm getting through it. Okay. So Kandi and Torrin are talking. Philip moseys on through. And, Torrin basically is telling Kandi that Philip is real stank. The attitude is nothing nice about it. And that, he's just not getting along with anybody in the restaurant. And that he was just given too much when he went in there to measure the event space. So Kandi is at this point like, wow, he keep on having issues with people. Like, we're going to have a conversation and figure this out. So Kandi walks into where Philip and Don Juan are talking. And, Philip says he's not going to work with Torrin and he will need to report to Kandi and Don Juan then. And so, if they're going to let him work there, like, all of a sudden he is on 10. And I'm like, how can you manage people with such a shitty attitude? Like, I get it. Those employees act very entitled. They probably playing around all day, whatever the case may be. But you as a manager, you have to be stable with your emotions. You can't be getting all unraveled just like them, because that makes you just as bad as they are. I managed people in my previous role at my job when I actually managed people in stores. I did that for almost 12 years out of my career. I never treated people like that. And I had some humdingers. Okay. I had some people that would walk up in my damn store with some flip-flop looking crazy. I had to send them home. But guess what? I did it all with grace. Anybody that ever worked for me, they probably would still work for me again. Why? Because I was able to maintain my composure. You have to maintain your composure, and you can't get unraveled with them. You can't be leave your emotions in the car. That's what you need to do. Because all that yin yang that Philip is giving everybody, you're not changing anything or making any differences in this restaurant, because you're just becoming a part of the problem. So Kandi is like, listen, Philip, we hired you because of all the experience that you have and all the things that you were able to do over at the other restaurant. So it seems like this is like the third occurrence that you've had over here. And we're continuing to have issues with you and the employees. You got to learn how to rise above that. You are here to fix them, not to get fixed in the process with them. That's just totally creating a whole nother issue that we don't want to have. You can be stern with people without being a dickhead. And that's what Philip needs to find the balance in. You're not going to be able to own a restaurant and keep any employees with your attitude, because people, yes, they do work for you, but you have to make people want to work for you. And with that stankness that you put on everything, it's not okay. And I get it. They do need somebody like a Philip up in there. But you got to be professional. You can't be getting all unraveled every time somebody does something that you don't like. It's given silly. So I'm glad that Kandi was able to come in and kind of diffuse that situation. So anyway, moving right along, Torrin goes over to Patrick and Melvin's house, and he's measuring and helping him, looking around the apartment, and he's like, basically, Patrick wants him to decorate his apartment, and he wants him to uh, plan his housewarming party because him and Melvin just moved into this place or whatever the case may be. Then he's like, yeah, and I want to have a sex toy wall. I'm like, okay, we could have did all without that comment right there, because Patrick, no shade, but it's not given all that you are trying to act like it's given. It don't look like you got any type of stroke going on here, sir. I don't believe it. You can sell that dream to somebody else. Not wake me up, please, because I don't know if you need all those toys, sir. I'm just saying. So anyway, Torrin says he's going to do all these things. He's going to decorate. He's going to do the housewarming party. Moving right along. Dominique is at the next scene. Everybody's at the restaurant, but Dominique is late for work because she apparently is dancing and loses track of time, and she's supposed to be the bartender downstairs. So they don't have a bartender. Of course, Brian used to be the bartender, but he's like, this is probably not a good situation for me to be back here making drinks, and I'm still recovering. Brandon's sitting at the bar eating, and he doesn't have a care in the world about, basically reprimanding Dominique for being late. So Brian is like, that's real messed up. You over here eating a whole full course meal, and there's no bartender here. I'm serving my tables. I gotta go up and down the steps to go. You telling me to go tell the bartender upstairs to make the drinks? You need to get back here and make some drinks until she gets here, since you okay with her being late. So Brian is super pissed off about that. Dominique comes floating in. Brandon says absolutely nothing to her. Then she starts complaining about the behind the bar being dirty. I'm like, well, bitch, if you hadn't got to work on time, then maybe somebody could have cleaned it up for you, or you could have helped clean up. I'm just saying. Excuse me. So moving right along, Philip, Chandrika this whole time is complaining, and she sees what's going on. She's like, that's messed up. Dom is late. Y'all not saying nothing. Brandon's sitting at the bar eating. Like, it's giving ghetto. It's giving real ghetto. So she explains all this to Philip, because she's frustrated. So Philip has a conversation with Brandon and takes him outside with another manager, and they're basically talking. They're saying, listen, you got to be more stern with these people, because they're going to do what they say you doing, and they're going to walk all over you. And it's looking like you just being real unprofessional. Okay. So in the next scene, they all the staff go and they meet up for drinks, and Patrick invites everyone over to his house for the housewarming. Now, at this point, Chandrika comes, and she's there with her fiance. And apparently the fiance and Patrick haven't had the best of past. They almost got into a fight at one point. So she's like, I ain't going to your damn housewarming because my boyfriend ain't about to knock my head off because you invite me over your house knowing that we had a past. So then she begins to talk to Brian, and she's, following up with Brian, kind of seeing how he's doing. And Brian talks about how he got himself some help. He's doing really well, and he appreciates everybody just, really caring about him. And she gives him a hug, and, we go from there. And he was like, basically he maintains that he never wants to feel like that again, how he felt when he was going through his addiction. So in the next scene, Rashard and Brian are at the bar. Brian is behind the bar. I guess he's making a drink for somebody or getting something from somebody. And Rashard comes upstairs and sits at the bar. And he's like, can you put these menus out on the tables? And so Brian is like, I'll take one. And then he fans himself with it. And Brian is like, I'm hungry anyway. I'm about to sit down and eat. So he sits down at the bar. And Rashard is like, you can't sit down at the bar and eat. Like, we aren't allowed to do that. And so Brandon is over at the other end of the bar talking to people. And Brian is like, well, Brandon do it all the time. He sit down and eat and do whatever the hell he want to do. Like, he don't work here. So why the hell I can't do it? I'm just doing what I'm shown. He leading and providing the example. And Rashard is looking like, I don't know about that. So Brandon, in the spirit of what Philip just told him about being more assertive with the staff, even though Brandon doesn't like to be assertive because he feels like if you're too stern with people, they won't trust you and they won't come to you for things. So, which I get it to a certain extent, but you do have to be stern with people. So Brandon comes over and tells Brandon that tells Brian that he needs to get up from the bar and there won't be any eating at the bar, whatever the case may be. So Brian is kind of sarcastic with Brandon and gives him a little lip while Shardo just gets up and does what he needs to do. So Brandon, in turn, talks to Philip and tells him he had to tell Brian and Rashard to get up from the bar. And Brian seemed annoyed, but Shardo did it with no issue. And so Philip encourages him to have a conversation with Brian because he's pretty much like, this is one of those teaching moments that you need to learn to handle it on your own, because you can't come to us every time. Because at the end of the day, if you got to come to me every single time you have an issue with an employee, like, what are you here for? Why are you here? Why am I paying you? Because I got to deal with all the shit. Like, what the hell? So eventually Brandon, now everybody, Brandon, Philip, Don Juan, and Brian are sitting down and they're having a conversation. So Philip just goes off the freaking handle. Brandon is like, hey, Brian, I talked to you. I said, get up. You seemed like you had a little attitude or whatever when I asked you to get up. And Brian was like, yeah, well, I see you do it too. So it is what it is, basically. And so Philip is just on 10. He's like, I'm constantly seeing you being disrespectful. And I'm like, I haven't seen him do anything. Like, I think that you have this. I think Philip thinks he knows what Brian is doing, or he feels a certain way about Brian. And so he just being real extra with him. And Brian made a good point. He's like, so Philip was like, yeah, so you're suspended. I'm tired of your attitude. You're suspended. And so Brian was like, well, based upon what? What have I done? Like, literally, it's been one day. So what the hell have I been doing all this time that's plucking your little damsel in distress nerves right now? So Philip is like, I don't have to explain anything to you. Here's my thing. Yes, you do. You do, because when you're accusing me of doing something, you have to have documentation. You need to say, on this day, you were insubordinate or you did XYZ. I would have respected him more if he even had any examples. He seemed like he was just so heated over him, not getting up from the bar, or, with Brandon having to come to him to say something about what Brian did. And, I just really thought that it was very unfortunate that he sat up there and suspended him. Now, I didn't agree with Brian, but Philip was like, you can never fill my shoes or whatever. And Brian was like, well, I'm a size 8. What size are you? Very good comeback, by the way. Very, very good read and comeback. But it set Philip the hell off. And I think that made it worse. So anyway, Don Juan pulls Brian out of there and goes to talk to him, which Philip doesn't like that, because he's like, that just that fuels them doing more of this behavior. It makes it seem like it's okay for them to continue to be disrespectful. And so Philip is like, you're constantly undermining me. Like, you are part of the damn problem too at this point because of what you're doing. So Don Juan goes out there, he's talking to Brian, and he's like, yeah, good and goddamn well, you shouldn't have talked to him like that. And he's like, you know what? Go home, get your mind right. I'm going to talk to Philip and we're going to discuss the next steps for you or whatever. So Don Juan goes back in and talks to Philip. And he says, listen, man, you got to get yourself together. He's like, I'm sitting here waiting on you to calm down, because Philip was like, in a normal situation, these people would not act like this. This is not normal. These people are not normal, and this is not how people act in a restaurant. So basically blaming them for hiring terrible employees. Okay. So Don Juan's like, are you done? Because I got to wait for you to be done for me to say what I need to say, because I want you to be okay with what you're saying. You got to take it down a notch, because you can't be on 10 all the time with every single employee, with every single occurrence. At some point, you got to start looking at your damn self and realize, hey, I need anger management or I got to calm the fuck down. Like, it's just not that serious. He's like ready to fire everybody over every single little thing and start over. And here's my thing. Everybody always going to have some shit with them. Everybody is going to make mistakes. Like, it's unbelievable and unreal how he is treating these people. So, moving right along, Philip walks out and he talks in the tea time camera and says he thinks Don Juan is a part of the problem, but he needs to calm down and go back in and talk to Don Juan so he can maintain a positive working relationship with him. So I guess we'll see more of that next episode. I don't know. But in the next scene, Patrick goes to his girlfriend Safari's body sculpting studio, and she got the little thing on his stomach moving his fat around, child. She said the thing is supposed to melt the fat, heat it, and you piss it out. I ain't never heard of pissing my fat out, but okay. So during this whole session, Patrick, which by the way, Safari had some type of it looked like peroxide or iodine on her damn part. She did a little too much. The part was not scalp color. Okay, we need to make sure that you don't do that again, Safari. Moving right along. He says he invited everybody to his housewarming and basically lets her know that he invited Chandrika. And she's like, well, why the hell are you inviting her? Like, why would you put me in that position to be around somebody that you used to be messing with? And he was like, okay, she's uninvited. Done. Because he's like, and people are like, oh, he is whipped by his girlfriend or whatever the case may be. So I'm like, wow. So in the next scene, Chandrika goes to Mama Joyce's house. They have like a Mama Joyce, the aunts, Kandi, and Dominica there. And they all do like a water aerobics class. Apparently, Chandrika is a good swim teacher, and she was supposed to teach the kids, Candy's kids, how to swim. But she decided to have her come over and do this little session with the aunts. So after they've done doing their swim workout, they all go outside and have some food. They take a break. So Candy's asking about everything, how's everything going at the restaurant, and how's Chandrika and Philip's relationship. And Chandrika was like, well, I'm fine. I don't talk to him. I stay away from him. And Mama Joyce was like, yeah, ever since that one incident where he sent you home, you must not be doing what you did the first time anymore. And she said, well, no, I didn't do anything to get sent home. I didn't do anything to him. Girl, first of all, you were very disrespectful. Let's not lie. Don't lie. Mama Joyce was like, yeah, you definitely did something. Okay, but apparently you're not doing it anymore. So it's okay. It's okay. You did it. You did do something. So don't lie to me. You did. And so Kandi is like, yeah, be that as it may, like, I feel like we need to have a conversation with the whole staff and Philip just so we can kind of get on the same page, figure out what's going on in here, and move forward. So in the last scene, Torrin and Brian meet for ice cream, which I thought this was a very, very good scene. Torrin basically was, showing his love and support for Brian, letting him know that he really is, really has his back. He don't ever want to see him hurting again. And Brian talks about his addiction and how he, was really, really depressed during the pandemic. And then his sister, he was drinking like a gallon of vodka a day, buying more and more drugs. Like the isolation was just not good for him. And then he talks about, losing his 49-year-old sister. Losing his sister that he was super close to. And apparently she died with a gallon of alcohol next to her bed. So it really kind of hit home for him. How he really, he was like, I wish my sister could see me on the straight and narrow path. He's like, I just want to focus on, building my business, staying healthy, doing what I need to do, getting back into OLG, whatever the case may be. And so Torrin is like, I'm your friend. I'm here for you. Whatever you need, I got you. So good episodes thus far. I am on the fence with Mr. Philip. Like, I really liked Philip. I like Philip's character, his no nonsense approach. But I do feel like it's getting hella extra at this point. Like, it's given too much. You got to learn how to dial it back. And he needs to learn some techniques in managing up, okay? Because managing up means that you need to take yourself down a notch to your employees so that you can learn how to be a great manager. Because nobody wants to work for an asshole. They just don't. And he's just coming in there with this, you better do what I say or I'm going to slap the shit out you or get you out of here type of approach. That's not going to work. It ain't. So y'all about to have an empty ass restaurant and he gonna be serving everybody his damn self. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Please, please, please don't forget to like up this video, comment, subscribe, and share this video with anybody else that is watching this show too. Please visit my sponsors, healisticthings.com, and purchase something from them to keep your health on track, okay? And I will see you in the next video. Peace out.